In the tumultuous waters of the Asia-Pacific region, the island of Taiwan stands as a beacon of defiance, caught in the cross-currents of history, power, and sovereignty. Against the backdrop of simmering tensions between Beijing and Taipei, the question looms large. Could China conquer Taiwan all on its own? This seemingly straightforward query belies the intricate tapestry of military might, economic dynamics, and international relations that shape the Taiwan Strait's geopolitical landscape. As the world watches with bated breath, the stage is set for a high-stakes drama that pits the aspirations of a nation against the ambitions of a rising superpower. In this video, we embark on a journey to unravel the complexities of this pivotal question, exploring the factors that could determine the fate of Taiwan and reverberate across the region and beyond. From the towering heights of military prowess to the intricacies of economic interdependence, we navigate through the tangled web of challenges and opportunities that define the relationship between China and Taiwan. Along the way, by confronting the geopolitical realities and historical legacies that shape their interactions, offering insights into the possible outcomes and implications for global security. Join us as we embark on this voyage of exploration and analysis, venturing into the heart of one of the most pressing issues of our time. The invasion of Taiwan, officially the Republic of China, ROC, has been considered by Chinese military planners for decades, but only under President Xi Jinping have observers worried this might be increasingly likely. Taiwan, formerly the island of Formosa, was the last bastion that held out against Mao Zedong's victorious communist army after elements of the defeated nationalist Kuomintang military retreated to the eastern island in 1949. Threats of military action against the self-ruled island have escalated during times when some Taiwanese political parties have debated whether to declare independence. Taiwan has had no seat at the United Nations for 50 years. President Xi's rise, with his focus on centralized control and a new professionally run, modern military, has set off alarm bells around the world. This, combined with explicit rhetoric from China's president that Taiwanese independent separatism was the most serious hidden danger to national rejuvenation, has refocused global attention on the possibility of China using force to take the island. The aggressive patrolling and overflights of Taiwanese airspace by aircraft from the Chinese Air Force have added a sense of urgency that this could very well happen in the near future. But how difficult would it be for China to successfully invade Taiwan? In terms of relative size and power, it might be considered a foregone conclusion, but the multiple challenges an invading force would face would be substantial. Although Taiwan's new president, Chen Shui-bian, has stated that he will avoid declaring independence from the PRC, his Democratic Progressive Party has long called for just such a declaration of independence. Chen himself is willing to forgo one only on the grounds that it is unnecessary, given that Taiwan is already sovereign in his eyes. Beijing has welcomed President Chen's restraint and even offered to view the Taiwan as an equal partner in negotiations, rather than as a local, renegade government. But it has also issued a recent white paper threatening that it will not wait for reunification indefinitely, stated that Chen must publicly renounce his party's stand on independence, and explicitly reaffirm the One China principle, and reminded the international community that it reserves the right to use force against Taiwan to safeguard its own sovereignty and territorial integrity. Chinese officials recognize that their military will not excel until their economy develops further, a conclusion that would seem to counsel strategic patience on Beijing's part. They also understand, however, that Taiwan is improving its own armed forces and note pro-independence trends among the Taiwanese population. For the Chinese, these latter concerns argue against patience. Any war between the two Chinas could easily involve the United States. Under the 1979 Taiwan Relations Act, official U.S. law stipulates that the United States would view any conflict over Taiwan with grave concern. The 1995-96 Taiwan Strait crisis showed that the United States does not take its interest in Taiwan's security lightly. A 1995 visit by Taiwanese President Lee Teng-hui to his American alma mater, Cornell University, provoked China to conduct military exercises and fire missiles near Taiwan, leading the United States to send an aircraft carrier through the Strait that same December for the first time in 17 years. In March 1996, the PRC launched more missiles near Taiwan. In response, the United States deployed 2 carriers in the vicinity as a show of strength. Largely as a result of the 1995-96 crisis, much of the U.S. Congress has lost patience with the existing U.S. policy of strategic ambiguity, by which Washington suggests to both Taipei and Beijing that it might help Taiwan defend itself, but does not commit itself to doing so, preferring an unambiguous commitment to defend Taiwan instead. War over Taiwan could take a number of forms. An attempted PRC invasion of the Taiwan is the direst possibility and my primary focus in this article. Some Pentagon analysts believe China could prevail in such an attack. As a 1999 Department of Defense report puts it, a campaign would likely succeed, barring third-party intervention. China's true views on the feasibility of the invasion option are unclear but worrisome, notably when threatening Taiwanese voters not to choose Chen just before their March 2000 presidential elections. Chinese Prime Minister Zhu Rongji suggested that China's resolve would overcome whatever material shortcomings PRC armed forces might face. As he put it, people making such calculations that China could not take Taiwan don't know about Chinese history. The Chinese people are ready to shed blood and sacrifice their lives to defend the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the motherland. On the other side of the strait, many Taiwanese defense planners believe they could not hold off a Chinese assault indefinitely without U.S. help. Taipei, Taiwan. There is an ominous new normal in the Taiwan Strait, the narrow strip of water between Taiwan and China. Beijing has long considered self-governed Taiwan as part of China and has threatened to force it to unify with the mainland. But over the past year, Beijing has been stepping up military pressure on Taiwan while stopping short of an outright invasion. China has been sending ships and planes to encircle Taiwan and mounting more sophisticated military drills, simulating a blockade of the island. In September, Taiwan's defense ministry counted a record number of Chinese fighter planes, 103 warplanes to be exact, flying in airspace around Taiwan in just one day. Since last year, China has been sending near-daily military sorties that dart in and out of that air defense zone. Robin Shu is among a group of Taiwanese military enthusiasts who obsessively track this signal communication. Chinese pilots leave as their planes or ships enter the air defense zone each day. This summer, NPR met with Shu outside a Taiwanese airbase, where he already intercepted Chinese pilot chatter from 6 separate incursions. Chinese military activity around Taiwan has been increasing since the summer of 2022, when former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taipei. It was a trip that infuriated leaders in Beijing, who claimed Taiwan as its own and opposed other countries sending high-level official visits there. Pelosi's trip also prompted China to look for ways to up the ante over Taiwan. The PRC has been committed to pushing the envelope in terms of what is an acceptable level of the use of force underneath open war, says Alessio Patalano, a professor of war and strategy at King's College London, using an acronym for China. Patalano says China prefers to use gray zone tactics like military and economic coercion to intimidate Taiwan and attempt to influence the upcoming January presidential elections there. These tactics include sending planes or banning Taiwanese goods to punish its farmers. In other words, no hot war and no invasion. But there is a constant reminder that China has its sights on Taiwan. Some fear China's gray zone tactics are practiced for a real invasion. However, the international response to a Chinese attempt to conquer Taiwan would be a critical factor in determining the feasibility of such an endeavor. The United States, in particular, has a vested interest in maintaining stability in the region and has historically been a staunch supporter of Taiwan's security. Under the Taiwan Relations Act, the United States is obligated to provide Taiwan with the means to defend itself against external aggression. This includes arms sales, military training, and potentially direct military intervention in the event of a Chinese attack. The U.S. 7th Fleet, based in the Western Pacific, serves as a powerful deterrent to Chinese aggression and could significantly complicate any attempt to invade Taiwan. In addition to the United States, other countries in the region, such as Japan and Australia, have expressed support for Taiwan's security and would likely condemn any unilateral Chinese action against the island. The involvement of regional powers could further escalate tensions and increase the risk of a broader conflict. The will of the Taiwanese people is a crucial factor in assessing the feasibility of a Chinese conquest of Taiwan. Despite historical and cultural ties to mainland China, many Taiwanese identify strongly with their island nation and support its de facto independence. Opinion polls consistently show a majority of Taiwanese opposing reunification with China under the one country, two systems framework proposed by Beijing. Taiwan's vibrant democracy and civil society would likely resist any attempt by China to forcibly annex the island. Mass protests, civil disobedience, and underground resistance movements could complicate Chinese efforts to establish control over Taiwan's population. The Taiwanese government, led by President Tsai Ing-wen, has also taken steps to bolster the island's defenses and strengthen international alliances in response to growing Chinese assertiveness. Meanwhile, Taiwan is limited in how it can respond to Chinese pressure. For example, Lee says every time a Chinese military plane or ship gets too close, Taiwan has to scramble its own jets or ships, and China just has way more of everything. Plus, Lee says Taiwan doesn't want to make things worse. Because we don't want to escalate the tension, and in order to maintain our morale, then we have to passively respond to this kind of gray zone aggression. Taiwan, with 23 million citizens, has a fraction of the military budget and fighting force that China has, with over 1.4 billion citizens. Taiwan has about 169,000 active duty forces and 2 million in reserves, though critics say they are poorly trained. China has the largest active duty personnel numbers in the world, with over 2 million. Taiwan is dwarfed by China's population and military strength. The PLA is the largest standing army in the world, with 2 million members, and it has much stronger air, naval, and firepower than Taiwan, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, IISS, a London-based think tank. At the island's National Day celebrations on October 10th, Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen said it was her duty to protect the freedoms and way of life of Taiwan's people. In the midst of tremendous internal and external pressures, Taiwan's democracy has grown and thrived, and we have emerged with even greater resilience, she said. The Taiwanese people, she added, will be a democratic and free people for generations to come. Contemporary Taiwan has also adopted a strategy of asymmetric warfare, by which it intends to make any military assault so difficult, challenging, and bloody that the PLA will consider the cost of invasion too high due to the number of casualties, financial cost, and inevitable political ill will at home if things go badly, not to mention the risk of turning Beijing into a global pariah. Taiwan has weapon systems such as the US-made Patriot air defense system, as well as its homegrown Tiancong or Skybow surface-to-air anti-ballistic missiles and Xiongfeng anti-ship missile systems. Under Tsai, Taiwan has aggressively tried to build up its military capacity, buying primarily from the US, although the island has indirectly acquired technology from overseas for projects like its domestic submarine program, which received varying levels of assistance from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, South Korea, India, and Spain. In 2023 alone, Taiwan ordered $1.55 billion in weapons and services from the U.S., including infrared tracking systems for F-16 jets, munitions, spare parts for aircraft, and technical support. Other purchases during Tsai's tenure have included drones, anti-tank munition systems, Paladin medium self-propelled howitzer artillery systems, AIM-9X Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, Stinger surface-to-air missiles, Mk-48 Mod, 6 advanced technology, heavyweight torpedoes, AGM-154 CJSL air-to-ground missiles, as well as field communication equipment and training packages, according to purchase orders approved by the U.S. State Department. Experts like Eric Chan, a non-resident research fellow at the Global Taiwan Institute, describe Taiwan's mountainous terrain and dense urban areas as unforgiving for an invading force. The Taiwan Strait is a notoriously challenging environment, and if a force made it to Taiwan, the common belief is that there are only a limited number of beaches suitable for an amphibious invasion. To the west of the mountain ridge lie fertile plains and large sprawling cities. Taipei, the capital, is in the north, Taichung is in the center, and Kaohsiung to the south are spread out, forming a natural defensive barrier that would slow any advance by the Chinese People's Liberation Army, PLA, to a crawl. Soldiers would have to fight their way through dense urban sprawls and blocks of apartments that can easily be turned into heavily defended strongpoints. The whole western side of the island is crisscrossed with rivers and canals. Taiwan has few beaches suitable for amphibious landings, and any force would immediately have to fight its way ashore while deadly counterfire poured down from the surrounding high buildings and cliffs overlooking the beaches. But the ROC is not just the main island of Taiwan. It includes many little islands scattered across the Taiwan Strait. Some chains like Matsu and Kinmen lie just off the coast of mainland China. The other main island chain, Penghu, is an archipelago of 90 islands and islets. Lying off the coast of Taiwan, These would be a deadly obstacle to any invading force. Extremely well fortified, the largest islands bristle with anti-ship and anti-aircraft missiles, early warning radar systems, and well-trained troops. They would easily detect the presence of a large invasion fleet and would be able to report on its movements and inflict damage on the PLA Navy's slow-moving transport ships before the fleet even made it to the target ports and beachheads. At the same time, however, there is increasing skepticism in some quarters, including the U.S. military, about how much those natural defenses will help, given the growing strength of the PLA, said Chung Chie, an associate research fellow at the Kuomintang-affiliated National Policy Foundation in Taipei. As a result, Taiwan has adjusted its defense plan to factor in immediate urban warfare, he said, given that about 79% of Taiwan's main island is considered built up. 5. Also, Xi Jinping is well aware that the PLA is unlikely to win a prolonged war in Taiwan, particularly since such a war would likely involve American, Japanese, and other foreign forces. The U.S. has made it clear that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan would bear severe consequences. These risks are intolerable for Xi because losing a war in Taiwan would very likely result in the CCP losing its power in mainland China. The political pressure applied by the U.S. against the CCP may serve as an effective deterrent against an immediate invasion of Taiwan, particularly after the economic and social unrest that China is still suffering from after the COVID-19 pandemic. However, Western pressure does not preclude Xi from taking the opportunity to consolidate the Chinese domestic front in preparation for a future surprise attack, and neither does it prevent China from exploiting the very diplomatic means that the West insists upon to break Taiwan's resistance without any fighting. Indeed, it seems that the Beijing authorities have begun to show signs of a soft hand. The tone of the reunification of Taiwan by force has been significantly reduced, and the intention of releasing a soft orientation such as the United Front, the CCP's foreign influence arm, has been continuously emerging. For example, Beijing wants to influence Taiwan's elections with a variety of United Front tactics, such as wooing Taiwan's politicians and business people with economic interests in order to help politicians from the Kuomintang, KMT, or other pro-China parties win power in Taiwan's presidential election early next year. Xi's goal is to influence Taiwan's political situation as much as possible, so that a presidential candidate from a party like the China-friendly KMT can replace the Democratic Progressive Party, thereby giving Beijing more room to maneuver and more time to prepare for the further soft seizure of Taiwan, or even for a rapid and decisive military conquest that would avoid the risks inherent in a drawn-out war. These moves can also enable Beijing to further infiltrate Taiwan and cultivate people inside Taiwan who can help the Communist Party in the future. This approach by Beijing can at least avoid a military showdown between the two sides for a foreseeable period of time, and may even achieve peaceful cross-strait reconciliation or a breakthrough at the political level with the help of years of United Front operation. Importantly, the Chinese economy is facing serious difficulties after COVID-19. The pandemic crisis, the unemployment rate is soaring, and investment, consumption, and foreign trade are not picking up. Xi knows that now is not a good time for war, because without economic support, a campaign against Taiwan would certainly be difficult to sustain. In conclusion, the ambition to conquer Taiwan represents a formidable challenge for China, one fraught with complexities that extend beyond mere military might. The geographical and weather challenges posed by the Taiwan Strait, coupled with the necessity for synchronized forces and Taiwan's formidable defensive advantages, present significant obstacles to any potential invasion. Moreover, China's lack of recent combat experience in the evolving political landscape, both domestically and in Taiwan, further complicate the path toward achieving reunification. While China may continue to invest in its military capabilities, the complexities of geography, defense, and politics underscore the elusive nature of conquering Taiwan. As such, any pursuit of reunification must navigate these challenges with caution and consideration for the broader implications on regional stability and international relations.